Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Yeah. He said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail.
Hello, everybody. It is me, your ever-loving Uncle Fish, back again, fastest pen in indie comics for School of Fish and Art Stream, where I'm going to try and help you get better at making comics. I just realized I am working on my 79th and 80th books. Oh, actually an 81st book, too. I forgot. All at the same time right now. I'm also the creator behind my own books like T-Man and Hyperstrike Remastered, now in full color. Fish Tales, a brand new anthology with sci-fi tales from across the multiverse of my mind. And The Mighty KAAW, the Cro-Magnon, which I'm working on issue 3 right now, which is going to go out to Patreon backers at the end of the month. I just shipped out T-Man and Hyperstrike Remastered to all my Patreon backers who hadn't got a copy of it yet. That just shipped out for February's book. A little bit behind. Had some family stuff come up, birthday parties and things like that we had to go to. So it's not uncommon for it to be the week after when it gets shipped out, because I like to make sure I get as many people get an opportunity to get in on the Patreon and subscribe, whether it's going to be at the digital level for $5 or the physical tier, so you get actual comic book shipped to you every month, or on the School of Fish tier. So not only do you get comic book shipped to you every month, but we get one-on-one work on our projects and stuff, advice, critiques, really help you hone your craft and get to a better place, get better at making comics. I want to give everybody a chance to subscribe for that month, so I don't miss anybody out. Like, I don't want to ship out all the books on, the next to the last day of the month, and then somebody signs up on the last day. I would feel bad if somebody got missed in the loophole. So I usually wait till right at the end of the month and ship them out. So, Fish Tales is shipped out. KAAW, The Mighty KAAW Volume 3 is going to go out at the end of this month. But to do that, we got to get finished coloring it. So, let's get to work on that right now. When we left off last time, we were working on this page right here. I spent a little time the other night and got it finished up. I'm pretty sure these are the colors I'm going to go with. I really thought when I planned this out in my head, I expected all of these scarves to be different combinations of colors. Like, one of them was going to be yellow and brown. One of them was going to be, like pinks and reds. Like, they were woven by different people at different times. Each one has a different meaning. But the more colorful combinations I tried, just the more garish it looked, and I didn't like the way it came out. And I kept going back to, this needs to be easily read quickly by a computer. Like, his computer scanners need to be able to look at this and read it quickly like a barcode. That's why they have the different patterns on it. And so I decided to go with a dark gray and a light gray, like it was black and white, but it's faded over the years and bled together. I might still change it. There's always a possibility I might change it before it goes to print. But it's sometimes when we're coloring comics, like, you go in with one thought in your head, this is how we're going to do it. And then when you actually get in there, it's like, it doesn't work the way I saw it in my head. Hello, Katie. Glad to see you here. Nice to have you. Katie let me know that she got a whole bunch of responses from the Patreon, because I went and uploaded a whole bunch of back issues, back episodes of the School of Fish podcast, so they would all be in the same folder and be easy to find for Patreon backers when they sign up. You can find all the old episodes right there, or at least as many as I can still get and upload. But that also meant a whole bunch of notifications came through. Sorry for the hassle. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like the look of the page. And I just realized, I thought I was done with this page, and I just realized I didn't color this machine behind him. And it's not bad colors. It's just not the colors that I would have picked for it. So I'm going to pick that wall color, and I'm going to go a little brighter and a little more saturated, a lot brighter. And let's see, let's go a little darker and saturated for some shadows. And I don't want to make it super complicated, but I definitely want it to feel like it was built by the same builder, you know, like same materials were used. Let's see what going lighter wasn't the answer. Let's go darker and see. Darker is the answer inside. I think lighter is the answer on the piston. And we'll go darker for the shadowy part here. Make it look kind of chromy. Kind of chromy. That's the technical term. And this guy, let's take this brown and work from there. Let's see what we can get. There we go. All right. Let's zoom out and see. Okay. I like that. I can believe that. I can believe that all works together. There we go. All right, that's good. That's good enough. That's good enough for the chicks we date. That's the word on the street. All right, so that page is done enough for now. I may still come back and tweak something. It's my prerogative. I can do what I want to do. And here's page 1 that I also colored the other night because I can't wait to do this all on stream. As much as I would love to do all the coloring on stream, because then that would give me something to absolutely talk about every time on the stream and not have to come up with new topics, it would take me forever to finish a book. And I can't do that because it has to be out at the end of the month, because Fish Tales Volume 2 has to come out next month. And so I got to get going. But I like the way this page came out. I got to reuse the ship again from before, which I'm not against doing where I can and where it makes sense. If I needed to redraw it for it to make sense in this, I would have. I tweaked it a little bit to change it a little bit so that it was a little bit different than before. But a lot of it is that same core drawing that I did on the first issue. And I love getting to reuse that. This is a throwback scene to the variant painted cover for the first issue, which, you know, I'm wanting to hint at the things that happened in KAAW's life and let you use your imagination to fill in the gaps. Like, that's what I'm really hoping for here. That's what I'm shooting for. Like, I want to give you hints of his big giant sword, and it's clearly something that he used a lot, and he doesn't have it now. Let's figure out why. I want to kind of put those questions in your head, and I want to let you kind of contemplate between the variant covers and like this scene here. How did they capture him and get him in this tank? Eventually he'll spell it out, but I love sprinkling little mysteries in there and giving you room for your imagination to run, because like I think that's what made Boba Fett the most interesting character in Star Wars for the longest time, and why he was everybody's favorite, because he had the fewest lines and the fewest screen time of anybody. So he was really just a point that our imagination could grab a hold of and go wild running with from there. Like, what is he like? What does he ever take off the helmet? You know, yada, 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 all these different things. What's his life like? You know, where does he live? Does he live on that ship all the time? Or does he have a house somewhere? Or, like, you know, is there a Mrs. Fett? Like, all those things we wondered about as kids that have now been spelled out for us. But that's what made him so interesting, because it let our imaginations run wild with him. That's why often, like, you got your like basic Star Wars fans. They're like, yeah, I totally love Luke Skywalker. Da, da, da. But like so many of the real fans, like the hardcore fans, like have deep affection and like their favorite character is some obscure dude that maybe didn't even like get but a cameo shot in a movie somewhere, but oh, he was in this book and he was so awesome. Or like, oh my god, I read a whole story about the Rancor trainer at Jabba's palace and his whole life and like how he got this Rancor to trust him and stuff. It made me fall in love with that character, who in the movie is just a dirty fat man that runs out and cries because the monster got killed. But like, it was so cool in the book. Anyway, I digress. We're getting off subject. We got pages to color and stories to tell. Oh man, it has been a crazy few days. It has been a crazy year. All right, we're going to do story time for just a second. All right, I apologize for anybody who may have tuned in for color. We're going to do story time for a split second here because I'm not one to take things personally. I'm not one to look at the world and say, oh, the world's out to get me. No, the world doesn't care who I am. The only one that has any real power most of the time to say whether or not I'm going to have a good day or a bad day is me. And what I decide to do. If I decide to get mad and let some guy cut me off in traffic ruin my whole day, I can do that. And I can be mad at that guy all day. Or I can decide, you know what? Let him have it. And I can go about my day and decide I'm going to be happy. Which is usually what I do. But I'm here to tell you, this year, it's hard to not take this year personally so far. Because it's just been one hit after another, after another, after another. Kids getting sick, grandbabies getting sick, in-laws in a terrible wreck. Like, seriously, we're afraid, like, my mother-in-law was going to die for a minute there. Like, she was really badly hurt. She's still really badly hurt. Can't get back to work, right? She's in a lot of pain every day. My nephew fell off a 50-foot overpass onto the freaking highway below. He's in the middle of a bunch of reconstructive surgeries and stuff. It's just been one thing after another. Lost a dear friend of mine recently. Yet another friend that, I've lost to self-harm and depression. And it's very frustrating to see how many people filled up the church to be there for his service and how many people in the community he touched and had a positive impact on, and yet felt so alone that he couldn't ask any of them for help and he couldn't admit how bad things were because you can't admit it because you can't have the stink of the stigma on you. And it's the exact same reason that nobody says anything. And I would much rather listen to him complain about how much life sucks than go to his funeral. But I don't get that option anymore. And it's very, very frustrating. And I usually try and find a positive message in things. I usually try and find the silver lining, if you will, like the lesson that I can learn from this. Like sometimes everything just may go tits up and it's not the way you want it to be, but usually I can learn a lesson from that and be like, well, I tell you what I did wrong. A, B, C. I ain't doing those no more. And at least if nothing else, I can learn a lesson from it. Some of these things just suck and there isn't a lesson to really be learned from it. So maybe we need to be braver and we need to be more open about the things we're struggling with and try and kill the stigma related to certain things. But then yesterday I was burning a pile of trash and boxes and things because my wife is a very lovely woman. She's a very kind woman with a very generous heart, and her love language is gift giving. and Amazon is the freaking crack dealer in her neighborhood who got her hooked a long time ago. Uh, if she hears you say anything like, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we had a, it's on its way from Amazon. It will be here in the morning. And like, I have had to learn to be very careful about what I say around this beautiful, kind, sweet, generous woman, because I can't just loosey goosey say, oh man, I always wish I had one of, because you will have it tomorrow. And now you have to find a place to put it. And that's a whole thing. Like, so we get a lot of Amazon boxes. And for a while, we have been taking those Amazon boxes and breaking them down and stacking them inside other Amazon boxes and making these big cardboard blocks, and until they filled up one corner of the living room, and then they moved outside on the burn pile to the we're gonna get to it pile. And that pile continued to grow and continued to grow and continued to grow. And she likes to order things, and they all come in boxes, and those boxes all had to go somewhere. And something kept happening every weekend. Oh, we're going to burn the burn pile this weekend. And every weekend, something would happen, and we couldn't get to it. Sometimes it was important stuff. Sometimes it was accidents and funerals and, like, you know, real serious things that had to be done. Sometimes it was just, I feel lazy. I want to take a nap. And I'm not one to pick a fight. It's okay. If you want to take a nap, take a nap. I'm not going to fight with, I am not going to be the guy that starts a fight by saying, you know, you said we were going to burn the burn piles. Why don't we go do that first? I'm not going to be that guy because I don't like picking fights. I choose joy, not war most of the time. So the pile grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew until it just got to ridiculous proportions, and it needed to be taken care of. So we raked all the leaves away from it because we still got leaves everywhere, and raked all the leaves away from it. I sprayed everything around it down with the hose really well. The dogs got soaking wet because the dogs like to play in the hose every time I pull it out. And then I went to light this thing on fire. And it took forever to get this thing to light. And she bought, because she likes to buy things, be generous and be helpful, she bought a box of these little stick fire starters for like the fireplace or whatnot. They're supposed to make it super easy to light. They're just sticks of wood is all they are. They're just chunks of wood that don't just, you know, light like a Roman candle. And so I ended up having to like take a little tin can and make a little fire in it to get it burning hot enough in that little fire with leaves and little twigs and stuff, so I could set these little pieces of wood on fire so that I could gently place them in the thing and start the fire. And it was so hard to get this little fire burning right with the janky little lighter, the only one I could find in the house. Doesn't want to light all the time. And it amazed me. I really learned a lesson out of this event, and I want to share the lesson. The little fire on its own, it had all of the right materials and trying to get a fire started, and it was so easy for that fire to get put out. It could be too little oxygen coming in. It could be too much oxygen coming in. It could be too little tinder, too few leaves. It could be too many leaves. They could be too far apart. They could be packed too close together. Any little thing could mess up the perfect chemistry that was necessary to create a fire in this little tin can stove I had built to try and light the bigger sticks to start the bigger fire. That little fire, you know, just, it felt like me a lot of the time. It felt like my life as a creator for most of my life. And I would try and put all the things in place, and I would get my little fire lit, and I would be so excited about some project that I was going to work on and something that I was going to do. And it took so little from the outside to just kill that fire altogether. somebody could spit on it, somebody could blow on it too hard, somebody could not blow on it enough. Like, any little thing would be enough to kill that little spark of a fire that I had going. And I was very frustrated at myself for a long time that I kept letting other people put my fire out, that I kept letting other people stop me on an idea that I thought really had legs and was good and valuable and other people would enjoy the way I enjoy it. But I let other people pissing on my parade stop me from doing things. And I got very mad at myself about that. But eventually, I get this little can going. I get the fire sticks started. I place them in place. And slowly that fire starts to spread into the pile. And it gets bigger and bigger. Very, very quickly, this fire was just almost entirely out of control. Very quickly. There was so much fuel. There was so many little air pockets for it to come rushing in around all the boxes and stuff. It was piled so high. The wind was blowing just right. It was a beautiful day, and all the conditions were perfect for this fire to freaking go nuts. And I spent the next hour seriously, desperately fighting for my life, trying to stop from burning my house down, trying to stop from burning the whole neighborhood down. Like, I desperately wanted to call for the fire department. I desperately wanted to call the fire department, but I could not spare the hands because I had to be wrangling the hose with one hand and spraying with the other hand to try and kill down the fire and try and stop the sheets of flaming cardboard that were shooting up in the air, because this thing had created such an updraft that these big hunks of burning cardboard are getting flying up in the air. The tree on fire, setting the leaves around the tree on fire. And I'm desperately fighting this entire time. I had no free anything to call for help other than just yell and hope somebody at the fire department 20 minutes away heard me, which they weren't likely to do. And so I spent the next hour desperately fighting, trying to put this thing out. And I've got the hose going full stream. And it did not matter where I put that stream from the hose. I could not kill this fire. I could knock it down. I could knock down this piece of it for a minute and then go knock that piece down and that piece down and that piece down. But it took a concerted, full-time, dedicated, just full-time effort just to knock those chunks of it down, to try and keep this under some kind of control. It was absolutely terrifying in the moment. But the more time I had to dwell on it yesterday, because I didn't accomplish anything else yesterday. This ate up my whole freaking day. I spent the rest of the day watching the fire after it was dead, making sure nothing sparked back up. I was emotionally and physically exhausted after this. I wasn't sure I was going to make it through this for a hot minute. So I'm sharing, my tale. But at the end of the day, the thing that really stuck out to me was the difference between trying to keep that ember burning by itself, separated in its own little container, and then all of these separate pieces of all of these separate boxes and boxes full of compressed boxes piled together. There was absolutely nothing I could do to stop that once that got burning. Once it was going, all I could do was try and slow it down. Nothing I could do stopped it. And it really reminded me of what it's like when you find your tribe and your family, like in indie comics. For me, finding the group of guys that I surround myself, the other creators that I surround myself with, like Sarah and Katie and Ezra and Eric and Tony and Rod and TS and all of these guys that I talk to on a daily basis, Jules and everybody that I talk to daily that are other comic creators. The way they lift me up, the way we fuel each other, the way we inspire each other and encourage each other, and I can draw something cool, and Danny can tell me that he thinks it's cool, and then Kyron can do something cool, and I can tell Kyron how awesome that is. And none of us have to be a separate little fire by itself trying to survive when anything can come along and squash it out, you know. But together, when we're encouraging each other and cheering each other on, and like, I have been moved to tears the last couple of days when I've received some books from some of my friends that weren't comic creators 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. And now to get to have their books in my hand and get to read them and be so excited for them. Like freaking Colonel Jefferson. I freaking love this book so much. And it has a really cool retro zine vibe to it, you know, and somebody might look and say, oh, your work's script, it's not Marvel artwork. This dude couldn't freaking draw like 4 or 5 months ago at all. Like, he was a writer. He was a writer that wanted to make a comic book, and he really wanted to do it, but he couldn't afford to hire an artist. So he just said, screw it, dude. I'm going to teach myself how to draw. And he did really freaking good. Like, you know what character is what character all throughout the book. I know a whole lot of people getting paid that can't keep characters looking consistent. This is really good. It was really fun. I really seriously enjoyed it. And it brought me so much joy to get to hold this book in my hands because he's such an awesome dude. And he's been such an encouragement to me. And it's been so awesome to get to be an encouragement to him and get to see his book succeed and getting to see other people's books succeed. And oh my God, I just got to read The Unbeatables from my buddy at Ultra Comics on TikTok. I laughed so freaking hard reading that book. It was so funny and clever and not like, you know, oh, like it's so stupid. Like, I just had a blast reading this book. It was so much fun, and seeing how much he's been encouraged by people like us. And it's just this fire fueling each other. And it is so much harder to get put out now when I'm surrounded by all these other people that are feeding my fire and I can feed theirs. And while I don't want to burn the house down, it was a really powerful experience. And even though it was absolutely terrifying and beat me up for the rest of the day and I couldn't get hardly anything else accomplished, I did really learn something from it. A, I learned we're not letting that pile get that big ever again. And B, I really learned something about the way we work together as a team and the whole we're stronger together as a family than we are as individual units. And honestly, that revelation alone, dear listeners, is the only reason I came on tonight. Because I am hurting and I feel horrible. And the last thing I wanted to do was come get on camera. But that story inspired me, and I was like, I need to get online and share that. So I wanted to share the little story I learned from almost burning my house down. Katie says, as a writer and creator, I always feel like it's very easy for my fire to get put out if I don't have even just a couple of people interested in it. Oh, absolutely. And like, I find myself sometimes wanting to stamp out my own fire on things because I'm like, well, and I forget in my ADD brain that runs a million miles a minute, I forget that it doesn't feel like it's been 10 years for everybody else like it feels for me since I started working on the mighty KAAW. And sometimes, you know, I look at like how many copies of KAAW 2 I've sold, and I get disappointed in myself. I'm like, well, obviously it's not working. I should just shelve this and, you know, put it away because I've been working on this story for like, you know, 5-10 years. And if it's not getting anywhere, then I need to stop and put my money in, put my time and effort into something that will sell. And then somebody else is like, dude, you just had the idea for that last year. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, that's been months, not years. Oh, my bad. Yeah, it's been like 5 months. Sorry. Not 5 years. But it hasn't been that long for everybody else like it has in my head. And and people will be talking about my books when I'm not there, which surprises me in the first place. And then, somebody will come back to me and be like, yeah, I was telling them about how much I enjoyed Fishtails. And they were like, he has another book. Where did he get time to put this out? And they didn't even know that it came out because I'm going so fast with things. So, sometimes I got to slow down, but like I catch myself wanting to put out my own fire because it feels like things don't get traction as fast as I feel like they should in my head. Or like people are saying nice things about KAAW or about Green Zone, and or I'll show somebody a preview of the book that I'm working on, and they're like, yeah man, that is so cool, it's so exciting, I just loved it. And I'm like, yeah, of course they say that, but they're my friend. What else are they going to say? They're not going to tell me it sucks. And then I have to remind myself, they haven't always been my friend. They weren't my friend until like they read Green Zone and hit me up to tell me how awesome they thought it was, and we got to chatting, and now we just so happen to talk every day and we're friends. And like, I didn't know you before you read my book, and now we're friends. So I forget that they started out as fans, because I'm just like, I don't have any fans. I got friends, but I got a whole lot of friends that I only made because people are buying and reading my books, which is wild. That's just crazy to think about. I mean, that anybody takes the time to spend money to buy your book and to read it and enjoys it is amazing to me. The fact that then they talk to other people about it, about how much they enjoyed it and what they liked about it when you're not in the room, blows my mind. That anybody ever thinks about me when I'm not in the room blows my mind. And then Sarah sent me screenshots of somebody where like she had told them some of the cool books that they put out that they could check out, and pointed them to some of my cool books. And they went and bought all of those books and came back and told her how much they enjoyed them and why. And she was sending me screenshots, and like, it kind of made me want to cry a little bit to know that, hey, I didn't even have to sell this book, and they got sold it by somebody else who enjoyed it and liked my work and said, hey, you should check this out. And they bought it and they enjoyed it and they're talking about it when I'm not there. That's nuts. It's crazy. Katie said it's really hard with ADHD and autism too, because other people's brains don't work as fast as you. Worry about absolutely smothering with content as well because your brain won't stop producing it. Yeah, absolutely. Like for the longest time, I thought everybody else's brain has to run as fast as mine. Like, and I would say things in school and people would just stare at me, and I'd be like, I would be really frustrated and somebody would be asking me what's wrong. And I'm like, well, when like you have 7 different trains of thought going on in your head at one time, and all of these different ideas are screaming at you, and you're trying to do your math, but you're also still thinking about the spelling test, and you're thinking about this giant robot that you want to build with your friends, and you're thinking about the moral from the cartoon, and you're thinking about what you're going to eat when you get home, and all of those things. And it's kind of hard to pick, like, it's kind of hard to drown out all the noise to focus on the math I'm supposed to be doing right now because of all the other ideas that are running at the same time. And they just look at me like I'm stupid and have no idea what I'm saying. I'm like, when you have all those different trains of thought going at the same time, and they're all going in different directions, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. And it was a long time before I realized just how differently my brain worked than everybody else's. And like, everybody said what a great artist I was, but my art was crap. Like, I could draw a dragster out of a triangle and 2 different sized circles better than the other kid next to me, because I put little scribbles behind the big circle to make it look like smoke, like they were peeling out. That didn't take a whole lot of skill, but the praise I got from being a good artist made me start to focus and work harder and practice more. And, I honed a craft out of it. but built a skill set and a knowledge of anatomy and things like that, and architecture and perspective. And I learned all of these things to get better at doing this thing that I enjoyed doing. But, you know, I wasn't just born a good artist. When you have about 10 different ideas in one day that you hyper focus on and then get really frustrated because nobody else can keep up with how fast you are coming up with them. Oh man, that's one thing that definitely makes it hard for me to get along with other people in a business group, like in a publisher or something like that. Hello, Sarah. I've been talking about you. Been saying nothing but good things. But that's one thing that has always been hard for me working in a group, like with a publisher outside of myself, is because my mind runs so fast. I get so many ideas so fast. I'm like, oh, how about this story? How about that story? Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And, you know, oh, I just got an idea for something else we could add to the Kickstarter that's active right now. And everybody else is freaking out because of like, whoa, wait a minute, you didn't run this by us. Or like, you know, or I would find somebody else that has a very similar Kickstarter going right now. I'm like, hey, I'll draw a pinup, you know, with our two characters in it. And anybody that backs both of our books, you know, we'll send out the pinup. And they're like, cool, yeah, I'll send it out if you'll do the artwork. I'm like, all right, great, I'll get started on it. And then have the publisher freak out. I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, where'd this come from? You didn't run this by us. You didn't ask us permission to do this. And I'm like, okay, no, I didn't, admittedly. But also, like, I'm not asking anything of you. You don't have to do any hard work. I'm going to draw the picture. Well, no, we can't afford to do that. That's going to be expensive. It's literally going to take me 1 hour of my time to do. I'm almost done drawing it now while you're arguing with me. And looks great. He's happy with it. He's going to print it and send it out. The only thing we have to do is give him a list of our backers' names so he can double check it and send it out to the people to back the boat. But like that makes it hard for me to work with other people because my brain runs so fast. And it's easier for me to just be on my own running at this speed than to have to try and run all of this power through somebody else's transmission of a brain that isn't geared to go this fast. And it's tough. But yeah, I'm getting no coloring done because we're just sitting here telling stories about how I almost burned down the house and learned a life lesson from it. And then Sarah joined in. I tell you, I'm still kind of an emotional wreck. I really am. Yesterday really pissed me off. For the Sarahs that came in late, I nearly burned down my house yesterday, burning a big pile of Amazon boxes in the backyard that we've been meaning to get to for months. And at least 2 or 3 new boxes show up every single day. And they get compiled together and put into a bigger box and then put out on the pile. And so I had a pile as tall as me that needed to get burned, and we waited way too long. It was way too big, and when it did go, it went like crazy. And then I spent the next hour of my life desperately fighting for my life, trying to knock it down enough that I didn't burn down the trees, burn down the house. Like, I started a couple little fires in the yard where it just shot burning cardboard up into the air and then landed over at a tree and started a fire. And I'm trying to put that out and knock this down and stomp out little embers. I was so busy for the next hour knocking it down, like I couldn't even call for help other than just scream out loud because I couldn't take my hands off the hose. So I'm fighting with the hose to keep it from getting tangled with one hand while I'm spraying with the other hand, trying to knock down fires. But the thing I learned about it that I was telling Katie earlier was the little fire that I tried to start to start this in the beginning, you know, was very easy to get knocked out. And it took me forever to get this little fire lit so that I could light the bigger fire. And thank you. I'm glad I'm okay too. And the little fire reminded me of my entire life as a creative before now. And every time I would get a spark of an idea and get excited about something, it didn't take much for the world to stomp that out. It could be too much air, it could be too little air, it could be too wet, it could be too dry, there could be too much kindling, there could be not enough kindling. It doesn't take much to screw up the chemistry and make that not work. But once all of those boxes were compiled and we've got a big thing going, all of a sudden this fire was burning so hot I couldn't get within 10, 12 feet of it without physically burning myself. And the amount of energy that thing put off was amazing. And I'm sitting there with a hose now at this point. Like the little fire, I could look at it wrong and it would go out. The big fire, I'm sitting there double fisting this hose, actively trying to stop this thing, and I cannot stop it to save my life. The only thing I can do is slow down parts of it. And I just had to focus on slow down this chunk right here that's burning too hot, and then slow down that chunk, and then slow down this chunk, and then slow down that chunk. And I'm working my way around the fire the whole time, just trying to slow it down enough that it doesn't burn out of control and set all the trees on fire and stuff. We got a lot of trees in the yard. And, you know, burn my house down, burn the neighborhood down. And I fought for my life for a solid hour, keeping it knocked down. But it amazed me, the difference between that fire being alone on its own and then being surrounded by like-minded individuals doing the same thing. And the difference, you know, between being on your own as a creative and being a part of a community of like-minded fellow creators that are trying to do the same thing. And how much I appreciate the family and the community that I've built in indie comics, and the Sarahs and the Katies and the Kyrans and the PJs and the Roscoes and the Kyrans and the Danny J. Quicks and the Mike Watsons and the Tony Clappers and the Ryan Robinsons and the Bees and the T.S. Luthers and the Ezras and Ultra Comics and Avena Comics and Jules and all these other people that I've met and connected with that I'm friends with now, that we can encourage each other and lift each other up, and to get to see other people put out their first book and be just as excited for their first book that came out as I am for my second issue of KAAW to come out. I'm actually prouder of this one because he worked a hell of a lot harder on this than I did on this, because this was easy for me and he had to teach himself how to frickin' draw. It brings me so much joy to get to celebrate with them and to get to feed into them and to get to fuel their fire and their passion and help keep them burning bright. And I really learned a lot from it. Like, even a concerted effort could not stop that fire once everything was working in unison together. Like, I did not have enough power to stop it on my own. All I could do was slow it down a little bit. And if us working together could burn that brightly, that even when people come against us with a concerted effort to try to stop us, they could just slow us down a little bit. You know, maybe they knock Sarah down for a second, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to be there to pick her right back up again as soon as she does. And, you know, maybe I get knocked off my feet. That's okay. I know there's lots of people going to help pick my fat ass up when I do. And that just, I learned a lot from it. It brought me a lot of joy in the end, scared the crap out of me in the moment. And I learned several lessons from it, mostly about my community. And also, we're never letting that pile get that big again. So I've kind of been shook all day. I've gotten some things done today, and I've finished up some jobs today that needed to get tidied up, but I've kind of just been floundering today, just trying to wrap my head around it. It was a pretty traumatic day yesterday. On top of everything else that's happened this year. I swear to God, 2024 has got it out for me. But you know what? It ain't going to take me down. I have got too much stuff to do. I got too many books to make. I have already put out too many books. I just realized I am working on my 79th, 80th, and 81st books I've worked on right now, simultaneously at the same time. I'm wrapping up colors on KAAW. I am inking and have a couple pages left to draw on the next issue of Fish Tales, and I'm coloring the next issue of the Sentinels right now. That's nuts. It's just like 5 years, like it was 2018, I think, when I published. Yeah, it was 2018 when the first T-Man Hyperstrike came out. That's nuts. It's crazy. I really need to get more coloring done, but if I sit on here, I'm just going to talk more. So I wanted to come on. I wanted to share that story at least. I hope it helps somebody. If nothing else, maybe it will get chopped up and make good fodder for the TikTok machine. Anyway, I love you guys. I'm sorry I didn't get more coloring done on my art stream about coloring. I got sidetracked with the story because I had a very traumatic day yesterday. But anyway, I love you. I'm glad we got to hang out for a minute. I'm going to get off of here and try and get some stuff done. I just remembered I have to make dinner. So, yeah, I should have done that earlier before I started the stream. I got to go. Peace out.
Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish art stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh, my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy